Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together.
Hello crafters and welcome to my craft room. Today I'm going to be sharing with you the Papercraftsociety box number 26. I'm going to unbox it and we're going to make 3 cards. This is the Papercraftsociety box 26 and it's inspired by Lou. So let's turn the camera down and have a look at what's inside the box. So here we go. This is what the box looks like and it's beautiful. It's got lovely silver foiling on it and it is a sneak peek as to what is inside the box. So on the box inside it says, crafting makes cold winter days feel much warmer. Lou. And this is Louise. And this is her box. And all the products that come inside. There are some great ideas for things you can make, inspiration by different design team members. So inside this is quilling, and it's something I've never done. It's not something I'm going to do in my video because I'm not even a newbie. I'm a no clue-bie person regarding quilling. There's loads of tutorials on YouTube. What I'd like to do is take some of the card ideas and actually make them with you. So there's loads to see inside and I'm not going to show you too much that. If you have this box already, then you know what's inside the box and inside the book. So I'm going to leave that for you to open yourself. Okay, so we get 2 packets inside the box. Once is this file or folio, whatever you'd like to call it, or wallet. And you also get some lovely tissue paper and there's products inside that. I'm going to leave this for a moment. We'll slide that over here. I'm going to pop the book over to there. And I'm going to open up the wallet. So this is the Textures by Lou Collins. So inside we get a wealth of products. We get some dies. See them here. I'm going to move this a little bit further and make a bit more room on the desk so you can see. So I'm going to take one of the pattern papers so I can use the back of it. So we get the dies and these are winters is what it spells. There's also a couple more here. This is a B, I think, and an I, and then we have some, this will be handy for if you're stamping, I presume, for cutting strips. I think more will become apparent if we actually look at what's on the stamp set. Oh, you see, look, we get sentiments. Walking in a winter wonderland, warmest birthday wishes, make a wish and winter greetings. And if we look here, this piece will actually register. You see the little black dots here? They will register here and here. So if we sit that down like that, pop it through our die cutting machine. I know you can't really see it very well. There's a glare there. There now, that might help a little bit better. So that'll cut those out like so. We also have some snowflakes and they're like quilled snowflakes. We have lovely swirls and embellishments and a beautiful centerpiece here. That would be lovely as a bauble. Lovely, really lovely stamps in this kit and dies. We get a lovely stencil. We've got a couple of snowflakes, we've got some falling snow, and we've also got this lovely little swirl. There's a bit of the stencil still left in there. We'll take that out. And you can see they're lovely for putting designs. Louise loves doing mixed media, that's her thing. And I think these would be great for that, for putting layers and everything down. So that's our stencil and our lovely dies, our stamps. Then we get some papers, and these are the papers. So it's 2, and these look like a jumper, a knit. We have 2 stone wool. This one is like what you would see on ice, when ice has frozen. We have another image of a forest on a wall in lovely black and white. Lovely. So we get those 8 sheets of patterned paper as well. So that's what comes in our wallet. Let's have a look now and see what comes in our tissue paper that came in the box. So we'll just pop that out. We also have 2 stencils. I suppose if you like, you can cut these out and use them as a stencil, or you can design on them, because it's always hard to know what to do with the box. And personally, what I do is I have them up here on a on the top of my bookshelf units, all stacked up. I don't want I don't want to cut into them or anything. I don't know, I just think they look lovely up there on the top, but I'm sure I'll have to come up with an idea of doing something with them. So in here we get a couple of chipboard pieces. These are for doing mixed media on and having as coasters. And then we have these pieces. The snowflakes pop out. We can paint and embellish them. You can also use the popped out piece, what's left behind, as a stencil as well. So they just pop out like so. And then you can always use this as a stencil. So they're lovely. I love those. Very cool, very unusual. We get some texture paste. I have not used texture paste. We get some lovely white glitter. We get some quilling strips in a multicolor. Lovely. And like I said, I've never done quilling, so that's new to me. This ruler is used in quilling, so when you twist your pieces, you can decide how much of them you want, how big and how small, and your shapes you can do. And all that will be inside in the booklet. We also get a quilling tool, and this is for twisting your papers, and it's a lovely size. I'm all black from the punch out, so be aware of that when you're taking out this piece. It's black around the edges and it makes your fingers black. I'm just going to quickly clean my fingers a little bit now before I go touching the paper. So we get some lovely cardstock here as well. Blue, light blue, grey, a lovely ice green and black. So we get a number of pieces of paper there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 pieces of cardstock or paper. It's not actually paper, it's much heavier. It is a good cardstock. It's a white core cardstock. So if you emboss this and then go over the top with an emery board, you can actually file back the color and it gives you a beautiful look. So there are all the products that came inside the tissue paper in our Papercraftsociety box. So now I'm going to take these products and I'm going to make 3 cards. The idea I have is to make 2 cards that's in the book to show you how to make them. We'll adapt them maybe a little bit and then make a card and a card idea from myself. So let's go ahead now and get ready to make our 3 cards. So before we create our first card, I just want to share with you what I have here ready. I have some ovals die cut out, a piece of the pattern paper die cut out. I have a stamp sentiment as well as a die cut sentiment and some of the snowflakes die cut out. So the ovals, I have used a die that's in my stash, and you can use any shape that you want. These are the Creative Nestables from Craft Stash, and I have used the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 die 6 and 7 if you start on the outside, and I'll give you measurements of the diameter of these ovals that I'll be using in a minute. With the dies we get all these letters, and you can make the word winter, wishes and best, as well as some other words if you're any good at that kind of thing. We also get this die. It lines up with this sentiment here, the Winter Wonderland, Warmest Birthday Wishes, Make a Wish and Winter Greetings. Now this is all one stamp, not including the snowflake here. And these little register marks here actually sit with these register marks here on the dies. So when you take the die out, like so, it sits over the registered mark of where you have stamped, like so. And then it die cuts out your sentiments in these strips. So I die cut out the warmest birthday wishes, but I'm going to cut off the wishes part. I don't need that. Okay, I've also used the snowflake stencil here. I did it on some black cardstock. So what I've done is I took some black cardstock, I put it underneath my stencil, and then using the texture paste I spread some out all over my stencil. And then what I did was I took the glitter that we got in the kit and I sprinkled some on that after I took this off. So put your texture paste on your piece of paper or cardstock, take off your stencil, then sprinkle it with some glitter, tap off all the excess and allow your snowflakes to dry. That's what I did, and they looked like this on my cardstock, and I just fussy cut them out, set down and fussy cut as close to the snowflake edge as I could. But I did want a little bit of the black showing through. You can see it there because I want it to be picked up on this pattern paper. So with the black outline it shows up really well. So that's how I use the glitter and the texture paste on those. With my wishes die cut here, I die cut it out in black cardstock and then in a glitter silver cardstock, and then I glued the two together and I offset the black to the silver. That way again you can see there's a lovely outline to it and it gives dimension to each of the letters. So that's basically everything that I have done and what we need for card 1. So to make the card base, I die cut out 3 of my largest ovals. I will need one for my easel, as this is going to be an easel card. I have one that this piece will sit against, and then I have one for the base. So 2 of these have no score marks or anything on them. One of them, what I did with the oval, it's kind of hard to realize where your fold lines need to be. So what I did was I took my oval first and I folded it in half as best I could. Once I had that done, then I set this on my scoreboard. I have some lines on my scoreboard and these help me in situations like this. So I put my folded line here on a line of my scoreboard, and then from that I then scored down and I gave it about a 1/4 of an inch tab. This tab will allow our card base to actually open and close easily. So I'll show you that now. So what we want to do is we'll take our base piece and this little tab, we'll put some liquid glue to it. It will then be stuck onto our base card, if I can lift it up. First of all, what we'll do is we'll make sure the whole thing is aligned nicely, and then with this tab up, once we know that our oval is mirrored with the one underneath, then we can press this down and allow it to stick. That will allow our oval to sit up like so. This will give us our easel base, and then once that's like that, we'll then stick this piece onto this half, and we'll only put some glue from our score line or our fold line around here, and then we'll stick this piece onto it, and that will give us our easel oval card like so. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to assemble that. Before I do anything, I'm just going to give you the measurements of our oval. So my largest oval measures approximately 5 inches across, and the longest length of it is a smidge over 6 inches, literally 6 inches and 1/16. So that's the size of that. And then my pattern paper measures again approximately 4 and it's just over the half mark. It's about 4 5/8. And then the length of it from top to bottom is again approximately 5 3/4. So that's the dimensions or the sizes of my ovals. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assemble everything. So now I'm going to take my Cosmic Shimmer glue and I'm going to add that to the little tab. Once that's set and dried, then we'll have a card base. I'm also going to add some of the liquid glue here below this fold line. And then we'll add our third oval on top of that. Once that's in place, then we can add our patterned paper to that. I'm going to use my Collal glue here. I just find the Collal glue will give nice strength to our card base. So once that's on, then it's all about embellishing it. Now I will embellish the inside of the card as well, but that's an afterthought. So you might want to do that first. Okay, so I'm deciding where I want to put my die cut letters and my sentiment and also my snowflakes. And once I have that decided, I'll glue those down. And this image has like a wall image in it, so it's great. It gives me a straight line to stick down my letters, so I know they'll be more or less straight. Lovely. Okay, so I'm looking at my snowflakes. Now I only have 2 snowflakes, but usually the rule of thumb is when you're embellishing a card front, you do it with odd numbers. But I had intended to cut my snowflake, this one, in half. That way I can have them as if they're half off my pattern paper. I've taken my Memento pen and I have gone along the edge where I cut my snowflake in half so that it has a black border to the edge of it. And I'll do that with both of them. You can see here I'm doing it again with the other snowflake. Once I've that done, again, I'll take my liquid glue and stick that down. Lovely. And now I can finish putting down my sentiment. I did debate whether I would put it up on foam tape or whether I would glue it down flat. And I think a little bit of dimension. These strips I use, I got them from Amazon. They're very slim and they're not a very deep foam tape, so they're just perfect for this. So I have it just behind where the happy birthday sentiment is, and then I'll cut off the excess. Now I'm looking at embellishing the inside, and I was going to just use one of the extra strips that I had die cut out, and I thought I'll use one of those, put some foam behind it, and then put that on the inside, and that then will prop up the front of our easel card. So I love that idea. I wanted to make sure I got it nice and straight, so I did faff around with it.
And once I decided where I wanted, now you can have the front of your card stand up as much or as little as you like. I was happy then with that, and I just thought it kind of needs a bit of embellishing. The inside of the card doesn't, you know, it kind of lacks a little bit. So I thought, you know what, there's some great stamps here. I'm going to use one of the stamps inside. So I'm going to take the smaller of the two snowflake stamps, and I'm going to stamp that using my Memento London Fog. I think this colour is picked up well with the colours on the image on the front of our card. And I'm just going to stamp them around the edge of the card base, sometimes fully on and sometimes nearly off it. And with that done then, I was really happy with this card. I figure between the foam on the winter greetings and the foam behind our warmest birthday wish, that the card really could fit into a regular 6x6 envelope with no problem. So there you go, that's card 1. For card number 2, I was inspired by this card, which is by Glynis Bakewell. I think it's lovely. I love the colours and everything on it. So what I thought we'd do was we'd make this card, and we'll do it as a 6x6 card. So it has all the instructions here if you like to make your cards using centimeters, but I prefer to use inches. My card base measures 12 by 6 and I'm scoring it at 6 inches. I'll then fold that over on the score line and burnish it. And that then will give us our 6 by 6 card base. Now you can have this as a side opening card, but I'm going to go with a top opening card for my card. I have some mats and layers here for the front. This glitter piece measures 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I'm then going to put a black piece of card measuring 5 1/2 by 5 1/2 on top of that, and then a white piece measuring 5 3/8 by 5 3/8. And we're going to stamp on this white piece in a moment. Next then I have 3 more layers. I have this black piece. It measures 4 3/8 by 4 3/8. The silver piece measures 4 1/4 by 4 1/4, and my white piece here measures 4 by 4. And again, we will stamp and embellish this white piece as well. This black strip measures 3 1/8 by 1 1/8, and onto that then I will add some of my die cut letters. And I've die cut out the word BEST. Lovely, and they fit perfectly then on that strip, but you can make this strip a little bigger if you want, or a little smaller. Finally then I have stamped the word wishes on a piece of black cardstock. I've white embossed it and I've fishtailed the ends. Okay, so let's go ahead now and stamp and embellish our white pieces of card. I have my Misty here set up with my corner stamp in it. I'm going to use my Versafine Onyx black ink to then stamp. I find the Versafine gives a lovely crisp image. You could also use some clear embossing powder over this and heat set that if you wanted. So I've done 2 stampings for that corner, and I'll do the same with this corner. On the open corners, I'll take the largest snowflake stamp that we got and I'll stamp that there, but I'll do that later on when I'm doing the next piece. I have my other piece of white cardstock down on some computer paper and I'm stamping out my largest stamp. Then I'm taking the other snowflake stamp and I'm stamping that down, and then I'm going to take the little scattering of snowflake stamps and I'm going to stamp off twice using that stamp. So I stamp it in the ink, stamp off twice on my computer paper, and then stamp it onto my image. So I think that's looking really, really well. It's nice and filled with all the different stamped snowflakes that we got in the kit. Delighted with that. And once I've that done, then I'm going to take the larger square and I'll stamp the 2 large snowflakes on that. I just wanted to kind of finish that because you don't see a whole lot of the stamping. You can make the other matte layers smaller if you liked, but I just thought that this would finish this larger white piece. So now it's a matter of assembling all our mats and layers and putting them down onto our card base. I have my larger mats and layers glued down to my card base, and now I'm going to add some foam tape to this top layer, and I've doubled over my foam on top of each other, and I find that way it makes it much easier for putting two layers of foam together. This foam is just it's just foam that I picked up at my local €2 shop. It's a black foam, which is always great when you're using a black cardstock, and it was very cheap. I think I got this in Mr. Price here in Ireland. Once I've got the release paper off that, I'll then adhere that down onto the card base, and I have a nice bit of dimension on that. It's lovely. Okay, so now we need to stick our letters onto our strip of black cardstock, and to do that I'll use some liquid glue. And again, I'll be using the Cosmic Shimmer glue to glue that down in place. And then once that's done, I can glue down my little wishes. Lovely. And I think that is fairly similar to the image of the card that's in the book. So now I'm going to embellish inside of our card base. Again, I'm going to stamp onto the ink, stamp off onto some computer paper, so I have a second generation inking going on there. And I'm going to use all three of the snowflake stamps that we got in the kit for doing this. So I'm just really kind of enjoying the process and using although I could have used a grey ink to do this, I just love doing first and second generation inking. I think it's very cool imagery. Again, I'm going to take one of the strips that I stamped and die cut out already, the Winter Greetings image, and I'm going to stick that down onto the inside of my card base. I've stuck it down onto some black cardstock, and what I'm going to do is, using my trimmer, I'm going to trim the excess away. So I literally have 1/8 of a border all the way around, and I'll use my Fiskars soft grip scissors to cut off the top and bottom. Lovely. And I'm delighted with that, card number 2. And now we're moving on to card number 3. Card 3 is designed by Sarah Jackman Read, and I love this easel style card. Normally the base of the easel is left intact, so you've the whole 6x6, but you can see here she cut away on the base of the easel card, and we'll do that too. So again, Sarah has her dimensions here in centimeters. I'm going to do mine in inches. I have a piece of 12x6 cardstock, and I've scored it at 3 and at 6. I'm going to fold both of these into mountain folds and burnish those score lines, and that will give us our card base for our easel card. Now we need to do some marking and cutting, and we need our pieces for the front of our easel. So for that we'll need 3 pieces of card. This blue piece measures 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. I then have a white piece of card. This measures 4 by 4. And then I have some pattern paper. This piece measures 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. We'll glue those together and they will go on the front of our card. Now we'll match up the points on our pieces to our card base like so, but we'll cut away those extra pieces. We'll also mark this point on the base of our card, and that is at 3 inches. So we'll measure across there using our ruler, and we'll mark at 3, both on the front piece here as well as the inside piece. So I have a ruler here. I know it's nearly off screen, but I'm marking that at 3 inches. Then I'm also going to turn the card around, and I'm going to mark the top and bottom again at 3 inches, because we want to cut away those corners, so when the front of our easel sits down on the base of our easel, you won't have those corners sticking out. So again, I'm marking at 3. So it's marking at 3 at the top, on the right hand side and the bottom, and those corners then we'll cut away. And the same with the top piece, we'll cut away the corners there as well. So you can do that now by drawing a pencil line and using your scissors, or you can use a guillotine or a trimmer, whatever you have in your stash. I'm going to use my crop pillar to cut away my corners because I can do it with the both of them together rather than having to do the top and the bottom individually. So I'm lining up from the score line in the middle there at the top to my center point that I marked, and then from my center point down to that bottom score line, and I will then just cut straight down with that. And I always find it's easier to draw the blade up rather than pull down. It's just a habit because it pushes your cardstock up to the top stop. So I'm happy with that now. It kind of looks like an envelope point. That's perfect. Delighted with that. But like I said, you can just use a ruler to mark out the lines there, and you can cut it with the scissors, whatever is easiest for you. Lovely. On the back here, I want to add some mats and layers. I'm going to put a white piece measuring 2 3/4 by 5 3/4, as well as some pattern paper measuring 2 1/2 by 5 1/2. Inside I have this white piece for our sentiment, and that will measure 4 by 4. And then we also need to cut 2 other pieces. One will be in white, which is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. And you can see here I've cut it diagonally across, so it'll fit on either side here. Then on top of that, I'll need some pattern paper, and that's cut at 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. And I again cut that diagonally to go on top. And there's those 2 pieces of pattern paper that I have there. So once you cut them diagonally, they'll then sit on top of the white pieces like so. I'm also going to need a little stopper for inside in this, and this is the one that I've made. I've taken one of the smaller snowflakes, I stamped that out in clear embossing ink. I then use some white embossing powder and heat set that, and then I die cut that out using a die from my stash, and that will be the stopper inside the card. So let's speed everything up now and assemble the card. I've all my mats and layers glued together. I just need to add some glue here below the score line and add our focal piece to that. Once that's set, then I will be able to glue down my mats and layers inside. So I'm going to glue down these little triangle pieces, and I think it's lovely with the pattern paper. It really brings the imagery from the front of our card to the inside. Our white large piece here, I haven't stamped anything on that. I'm going to leave that blank so I can put a message. But if you want to stamp a sentiment on that, now would be the time to do that. Once that's glued down, then I can take my stopper for our easel piece, and I was going to put a sentiment across that, but I decided against it. I just liked the look of the snowflake all on its own. So I have a piece of foam tape there, and I'll stick that down, and I'll try and leave a nice border around that. And there you go, there is our easel card. Now we need to do is add our sentiment and embellish the front. So I've taken the Make a Wish that I have stamped and die cut out earlier. I've put some foam tape behind that, and I'm going to add that to the front of our card. And I've die cut out this happy birthday sentiment. I'm going to stick that down onto the front as well. I've left this rather plain. You could put some enamel dots or some Nouveau drops or anything like that to embellish the front if you like. But I just thought that this card could be given to a guy or a girl, but I just kind of think that the colors in this, it kind of looks like a masculine make, and that's what I want to do this year. I want to try and make more masculine looking cards. So here we are, here we have our 3 cards, and I feel that they could go to anyone, be they male or female, and I just really enjoyed this kit. There is so much to offer inside the kit that I haven't even touched upon yet. but I hope you enjoyed my 3 cards. If you have, you might give my cards a thumbs up by pressing the like button. If you're a subscriber, thanks for subscribing. And if not, you might click on that bell icon. That way you'll be notified each time I post a new video. You'll find links to the products I've used down below. And until next time, friends, thanks for watching. Stay safe and bye for now.